Okay, since I know that there was a little bit of confusion with the room, I do want to go ahead and take advantage of the time. So I'm going to kind of chit chat about Fulbright in general. And then as you guys might come in or people might stop in, then we can kind of have those conversations. So welcome to the checking in progress on the 2015-2016 Fulbright. What this is a webinar to get you comfortable with it. And so I want to give an overview of the process so that you are moving forward with completing the various steps and processes involved in the Fulbright experience. So the first thing you're going to want to think about is, of course, the calendar. Now, you will want to make sure that you're kind of in the middle of working on your Fulbright right now. If you haven't started, and I know that I've spoken with a few of you who are in the middle of things, or even at the very beginning, you're going to want to make sure that you kind of jumpstart that, particularly in August. The best thing you can do at this point is to make sure that you have your country, you have your opportunity, and you've started your application on EMBARK. I asked you guys all to make sure that by August 5th that you were okay, that you were set up on EMBARK. And as of today, I show 11 Eckerd students who are set up on EMBARK. So thank you guys very much for doing that. If you haven't, EMBARK is still open. I know there are a few of you that are not in country right now, and so that you're going to want to kind of move into that. I see that we do have a couple viewers in, so that is good. Welcome. I'm still figuring out Google Hangouts and YouTube broadcasts, so I am working with that. So like I said, I see that you guys are here. I'm just going to put a little chat over here so that we have that access, not all. And then that way we can kind of use that to also have a conversation too. As we are moving through tonight, I am hoping to have some questions and some answers and to then explore some of the ideas related to a successful Fulbright application. But as I mentioned, the most important thing that you can do right now is to make sure that you're in the middle of your actual application. The first thing first, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can kind of see what that looks like. 1 second. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna hit the wrong little button. Go ahead and do my presentation on my screen share. And what you're going to see on the screen is the home page for Fulbright. This is the US Fulbright Online ORG page. I'm going to share that over here in the chat area. What this is your starting point. It has all the information that you might need, but it also has some of the other information that might be a little hidden. Many of you throughout the summer and in the spring, we've spoke about what were your opportunities and what kind of statistics were there. So if you look under statistics, you will see that there are quite a few different areas. The ones that are most salient to the Eckerd student is the Study and Research Grant and the ETA. The Study and Research Grant, as many of you know, is where you're either going to apply to study and do graduate work, or that you're going to do a research project with an institution in that country. Whereas the ETA is about teaching English in another country. Both of them are highly, I guess you'd say, open to undergraduates, and they're equally, I guess you'd say, competitive, but also flexible. I know that a few of you were interested in the National Geographic Digital Storytelling Fellowship. This one is highly competitive, as you can see, with 312 applications for 5 awards. But that doesn't mean if you don't have, that doesn't mean you shouldn't apply. It just means that you're going to really want to make sure that you're a solid candidate. The other thing that I believe is very important for you to explore is, of course, your countries. Many of you have already went through a very in-depth exploration and have selected a country. I know some of you are still torn between countries, so you really do want to get a perspective on what that country is offering. For instance, Spain is a very popular country. If you take a look under countries at Spain, you will see that they offer 25 study or research grants, 1 MBA award, and 1 Master's in International Management. They also offer 2 Masters in Communication and Social Behavioral Sciences and 46 ETAs, all within Madrid or the region of Madrid. When you select one of these areas, you will see that it tells you how long the grant period is, what the candidate profile should be, the degree levels they're seeking, what proficiency they require in the actual language, which here is intermediate or 2 years of college study, and the various proposal types and affiliations. There are also any markers that would make you ineligible, such as you being a dual citizen, or if with any of these special application directions. And they have the specific website right here. All the countries, for the most part, have their own websites, so you can get further information in those areas too. But as I mentioned, going into the countries and really becoming very facile with the information in your country and for your opportunity will help to make your application strong, because you're going to be aware of what they're looking for. When we are exploring the whole application process, there's a good little breakdown here. I also recommend that you go ahead and bookmark the information sessions page. They do have some webinars that you can attend, and you can watch them. I go to these quite frequently. They're great to kind of get a snapshot of what they're looking for. For instance, if you selected the Fulbright Nat Geo introduction, you can of course take a look at it, or you can register for any of the future ones. Now the future ones, if they're for FPA, that's for a program administrator like myself, so you would not be able to go to those. But you would be able to attend or watch any of the other webinars, and I highly recommend doing that. There's also, if you take a look down here, there's some information that you might look forward to, and this is for actual once you become accepted. There's some drop-down menu items for checklists and timelines, and so you can kind of get a sense of what that looks like. This is our competition timeline. It is where we are right now is in August. Our campus deadline isn't as early as August 1st, but the deadline for the online application is October 13th. And so we will be doing our interviews in September, preparing for those, of course, with our August 19th webinar. So this is the website, and it has all the pertinent information that you need. When you go to EMBARK, most of you have went. In fact, here's the EMBARK, what I see. I have Mackenzie's, Austin's, Kara's, Timothy's, Hannah's, Tatiana, Shaughnessy, Henry, Catherine, Leah, and Rosemarie currently already ready to go. And you'll note that they have their countries and also what they're looking for. So this is a way that I know that you're enrolled, but also it's an accessible point for you to start to prepare your document. So when we start to consider what Fulbright truly needs to look like and feel like and be like, the nuts and bolts of EMBARK and the nuts and bolts of picking a country and all of those other components are pretty much things that happen in your mind. They're not actually putting pen to paper. Some of you, and I've worked quite closely with a few students over the summer, already have their drafts ready to go with some little editing and some other concerns. This is a good place to be. It doesn't mean that if you're not there that you're not going to be a solid candidate, but it does mean that you do want to think that August is really where you need to light the fire. What will happen once you start EMBARK is you get your application. Now your application is of course the normal demographic information. It has name, education, family, etc. But there are some chunks and blocks of information that you need to craft. For instance, the first question is a space for where you need to explain why and how your work is important, whether it's an ETA or whether it's a research question or research proposal. And then there's, of course, another question that asks you about your future plans. Both those questions of what is important about what you're doing and what your future plans need to be loaded with a couple very important components. First and foremost, you need to make sure that in those sections, as well as the other portions of your application, that the sense of being a cross-cultural ambassador comes across. That you really are desiring to represent the United States on the global stage in that country as both an ambassador and as someone who wants to give back and serve, but also someone who wants to learn. So number one, when you're writing and thinking about the application, is to really consider what it is about you that will make you a good candidate for the Fulbright experience as a whole. And what that really settles with goes all the way back to when the Fulbright program was started, was the desire to send U.S. citizens who had been educated into the world in order to be ambassadors and cross-cultural representatives. And so you want to think about that when you're considering what is it about your project that is so important and what is it about your future. This doesn't mean that you have to create this alternative world where you're going to be a diplomat or you're going to learn Farsi or that you're going to do all these profound things. But it means you want to think about what you want to do in the next 5 to maybe 10 years that might draw on the potential experience that you have with the Fulbright. So this means it's not about the next 40 or 60 years. It really is about that closer 5, maybe even 10 years out. And you want to really consider what the program or what the country is looking for. And so that's a balance. So the application, when it starts out, isn't really just demographic, but it does have a sense of integrity and a sense of importance when it's asking you these questions. The next thing that the application is going to ask you to do is it's going to ask you to submit a personal statement. Now, your personal statement is going to be a finely crafted piece of writing. This means that you're going to want to think about who you are and why you want to do a program like the Fulbright. You may recycle or use other things that you use for other essays or other scholarship or fellowship programs, but I want you to spend a lot of time really crafting and thinking about what is it about my experience and this country and this either ETA or research grant that really makes me that unique candidate. What can I pull forward and really show and demonstrate? And this is going to take a bit of time. It is 1 page, so that means you do not get to go on and on and on. Instead, you really have to target it. Traditionally, this has been structured with the first paragraph kind of being the lead-in, who you are, what you're hoping to do in the future, and why you want to do a Fulbright, with the second and third paragraphs being kind of past experience and Fulbright, current experiences in Fulbright, and then a conclusion that kind of forecasts what you want to do in the country and then beyond. So that's a lot to accomplish in a page, so you have to be really specific. And you have to somehow get your presence off the page. It's a very high stakes type of writing, and I urge you to not just come and see me and not just work with your peers, but to reach out to professors, mentors, people in your field and get feedback. The more eyes you have on your paper, and qualified eyes, but the more people that can give you some feedback, the stronger and more cohesive your text is going to be. I do consider the draft to be something that is evolving. And so even when we get to the interview stage in September, you may make subtle changes or substantial changes to your application materials, including your personal statement, based on the feedback from the various individuals on the interview panel. Okay, so we're going to put a little pen in that personal statement. So now we're going to move into the ETA. Now the ETA is going to require you to write a statement of teaching or statement of teaching purpose. And this is going to be a longer section, but it's still not a 15-page document. This is going to be where you're going to speak about why you want to teach English in this country, how you want to teach it, and it's also going to involve a very important component of the Fulbright ETA program, which is where you propose a service project and a community building project for your country and community. Now, these service-based projects run the gamut. They can be wanting to institute some sports program, or you might do a cross-cultural sports program where one day you might play baseball, the next weekend you might play a game that's more indigenous of that country or related to that country. They can also be related to, we had a student that did a lending library. Her service project was that she proposed that she would put together materials so that she could go around and kind of do a bookmobile and share the text. And we had another student, very successful, who wanted to teach about the native elements of the geological formations in that country. So you can do various different programs. These don't have to be, I want to start an after-school program, or I want to do a reading, like a reading rainbow kind of thing. They can be very much related to you. If you like sports, think about doing something with sports. If you find that you've spent many years doing a specific kind of craft or a specific kind of extracurricular activity, pull that in. And use that space as a way for you to consider how you can best communicate with that community, and also how you can demonstrate that you can meet the needs of that ETA. Now, when we start to consider or to contemplate what that teaching purpose statement is, it's hard. It's hard to write it because ECHR does not have a education kind of major or program. So we're not used to writing pedagogical statements. So this does take a bit of time. Many of the professors at ECHR are very comfortable with writing teaching statements, and that is what this most closely resembles. It's a little less philosophic than the teaching statement, but it still has that kind of thrust that you are trying to demonstrate to your reader, the Fulbright organization and the country, that you are prepared to come into the classroom or into the environment and to engage in developing the students, developing curriculum, developing materials, and being part of that community, as well as giving you the opportunity to put a little bit of you and a little bit of that uniqueness that is you into the actual service project. So you can have a little bit of fun with this. Like I said, I know that it can be a little stressful to write this. It's a little more stressful to write this than it is to write that personal statement. So I urge you to stop by and visit. I have tons of samples that you can take a look at. We can definitely move forward with those. And we can kind of get you into a good place. So that's for your ETA. Now, if you were going to do a research or study grant, you would then write a statement of grant or statement of grant purpose. And this is usually, like I said, a little bit longer than the personal statement, and it's a modified grant proposal. It's really about what you want to work on, what is your research question, what organization do you want to work with, i.e. your affiliate institution, what are you hoping to see, and how can this project affect not just the community you're in, but the local, larger, all these other communities that are connected to it. It does take a bit of time when we are dealing with writing the statement of grant, because often what we will want to do is less about, I guess you'd say less about just you, but also what you're working with. And so often what will happen is that the student who's working on the Fulbright is kind of working in concert with that affiliate organization in that other country in order to craft a very solid research proposal. I know that many of you who are already deep working on this have already started to consider, how can I most accurately craft an effective research question and a statement of grant? And so this is kind of what you're looking for. And at this point, for the most part, you should have drafts of those going. Not that you can't do it, but it's going to be a little more condensed if you don't. Because the affiliate organization, you need to have a relationship with them. And sometimes it's hard to broker that kind of relationship in a short period of time. So please, if you have not got an organization or started to speak with someone that can help you, get in touch with me and let's figure out how we can troubleshoot this. One of the most important things you're going to ask of that organization is for them to write a letter of affiliation for you. This letter will often make or break a Fulbright because it's going to say, yes, we want this researcher to come here. Yes, we have the resources. Yes, we are capable of keeping this individual in our charge. You're not working for the organization, but you're kind of working in concert with them. So you want to have that, and you're going to ask them to write this letter of affiliation. This means that for the most part, I will also be happy to help kind of craft or help them if they've never written one to take a look at some of the samples and some of the suggested materials. And I've already shared some of those with our individuals who have reached out to their affiliate organizations. So these are kind of our written documents and what you proposed. Of course, you need to have letters of reference. These letters of reference, you want to have 3. They need to come from individuals who can speak to your abilities as either a researcher or as a teacher. You'll also want to make sure that the recommenders can speak either to your project or to who and what you're going to be doing in the future. It's very important to have solid research or solid reference writers, I'm sorry. When it comes to the idea that we're going to be writing these things and we're going to be working to kind of create this kind of idea, we do want to consider that the best thing that we can do is going to be to reach out early to our letter writers. I would say now, if you haven't already. You might want to include any pertinent information about the country, the opportunity. You may want to include the draft of your personal statement, and you might want to include the draft of either your statement of teaching or your statement of research, so that they have something to base their letter on. I would pick wisely on your letter writers. Take a look, make sure they have ample time to write it, because it needs to be uploaded by October. But we're going to need to probably see it before that too. So you're going to want to, kind of let them know of this time frame. And of course, you're going to want to prepare a thank you note that you will send to them after they write the letter for you. You will also need your transcripts. These will be your unofficial transcripts, and we'll talk about how to PDF those from EC Web. For certain countries, you will need to demonstrate language proficiency. So there's an area for language proficiency and testing that you might have to do. Now, if it's a more, I guess you'd say, normalized language like Spanish, French, German, Italian, Russian even, Arabic, we will probably have someone from the faculty on the interview panel to ask you questions in that language. So you want to be prepared to answer those questions. We don't do this for all the languages because we don't have access to those resources, but we do try to do it as often as we can. Now, When we are considering the Fulbright experience, what we really are looking at is we're trying to get you comfortable for the interview, and then after the interview, we're going to give you feedback, of course, and then we are going to move into the kind of the CCE, or the Campus Committee Evaluation Forum, where as a committee we decide yay or nay, and we would let you know. You will know well in advance if it's going to be a nay. As I mentioned, the campus interview is a panel interview. We'll be doing those in September. There'll be anywhere from 3 to 5 people on your committee. You will come in, we will interview you, we'll ask you questions, and then following that interview, we will give you some feedback and directions, and then we will do the evaluation form. And we'll do that all within ample time so that we can go ahead and submit that for October 13th's deadline. At that point, so once you've completed the application, once you've completed the interview, you've completed the revisions, and we've submitted all your information to the campus, to the deadline, and then we've hit the deadline for Fulbright October 13th, then your Fulbright application's in process. We normally don't hear anything until January or February, and then they'll start to let us know if you're a finalist and or if you've won. And then basically anytime from March to June, they'll be announcing the winners. So it is kind of a longer period. Some countries are quicker to announce, some are a little bit longer. Taiwan this year waited until about the end of May. So it's, you will get some hopeful news early on in January or February as far as being a finalist, but it does sometimes take a bit longer, depending on whether that country requires an interview, or whether the country just wants, you know, to kind of go ahead with the with accessing you or processing you as their Fulbrighter. So that's kind of the overview. Now, what I do want to mention are a couple pointers. I think it's very important for you to kind of consider that the Fulbright is not just something that you do on a whim, that you do want to be prepared. And so this means that pretty much if as of tonight you're not ready, then I would say let's hold off and maybe do it next year. Unless you have the next 3 weeks to just dedicate to doing this and getting yourself prepared. Because you do want to really craft a solid application packet. As that goes, you can apply for a Fulbright pretty much up until you're finished with your PhD. After you've completed the PhD, then you shift into a professional Fulbright. So you could still get a Fulbright, it's just no longer the student-based one. So you have some time to do this. It's not as if the sword of Damocles is hanging over you and you have to do it now. You do have a bit of time to consider this, and that is always a good thing. Now, I will say that there are a couple things that you want to consider besides just do you have the time. Are you ready to commit to this program? I know that many of you are also considering and applying to graduate schools and professional schools, medical, law, etc. So if you do get accepted with a Fulbright, you might have to defer that. So are you ready to do that? Are you mature enough to do that? I mean, it's a hard decision. And we had a student this year that faced that. He got accepted into graduate school, and he had to basically argue with his graduate school that he needed a deferment. He needed to kind of to do a wait on his graduate school application. And luckily he's able to do that. But that does take a bit of time and a little bit of wiggling. So make sure that you're ready. Make sure that you're also aware of the host country. Items, not just the language, but the culture. Are you going to be able to do this? Is it something that you really want to engage? And for the most part, Eckerd students do. And so this should be a simple question to answer, but you also want to think about it as you're writing, because that will allow you to really pull out that passion, those ideas that you have. Also, is it a valid and feasible proposal that you're putting forward, whether it's an ETA or whether it's a research? Is it valid? Do you actually have the ability to do what you're saying you're going to do? If you say that you're going to be teaching English in Spain, and you're going to run a program where you invite members of the community to participate in a sports league, baseball or touch football, i.e. American football, are you going to be able to do this? Do you have knowledge of the game? Now, if I said I was going to do that, I would not be able to accomplish it. So you want to make sure that you do have the ability to do what you say you're going to do. You want to think about those responsibilities. Sometimes an ETA isn't about teaching the little children in the community, but instead are about working with other teachers to teach teachers, which is a very different experience. So really get that information from the sources so that you have the capability to do that. Show your motivation, show your comfort level with it. Now, I do think that one of the things that you can consider in relation to motivation is also how much traveling have you done. The ETA does not discriminate if you've been to that country or you've been involved with other aspects in that country, but it does normally suggest that if you've spent more than 6 months in the country doing significant work, that you might want to select a different country. And this really does come down to the effort that they don't want. I don't want to say they don't want. They want to select individuals that might have a comfort level with it, but they want to provide a very unique experience for you. So, like I said, you want to think about that when you are putting forward your experience. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to kind of consider is that you're going to want to think about not just where you want to go with it, but how you want to get there. And what I mean by that is that you are building the blocks that you're building the blocks now that you're going to use to make those arguments in the application. But you might be doing some stuff in the fall that would generally or genuinely bump up your application. So you're going to want to go ahead and add that in. And you can forecast those elements too. And I'm always available to assist you. You can email me at robinskk@ecker.edu, as many of you know. You can also hang out, chat like this with me. You can also Skype chat, FaceTime, phone chat, and starting this week, I will be on campus. I will be in my office. I will be posting my office hours. I will also have a variety of other times that will be available. Like I said, this is the first time that I've used Google Hangouts in this live broadcast, so we'll see how this works, and maybe this is not the mousetrap that we use. I personally thought I was going to be a little more engaged with you versus kind of just chit-chatting with the screen. So we will kind of figure that out. And maybe it's because I'm not using the Google Hangouts as accurately or as saliently as I can. So I will be posting this. What I urge you guys to do now, since this, like I said, has been pretty much, I'm not sure why it's not letting everyone kind of chit chat. I see that there's 2 viewers, but I'm not quite sure who the viewers are. So we'll kind of do some troubleshooting, and hopefully I'll kind of figure that out. This will be broadcast, so there will be a recording of this so that you can access it. And I urge you guys to reach out and let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. So thank you very much for attending the webinar, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon.